Today's program will acquaint you with the basic organization of the Masonic fraternity, a brief history, its outlook regarding religion, and the role of secrecy. Freemasonry is the oldest fraternal organization for men in the world, and its organizational structure demonstrates its deep roots in Western culture. The basic unit of the fraternity is the lodge. It is believed that the term lodge, as it is used in Masonry, comes from the shelters that were constructed at the building sites of cathedrals and castles during the Middle Ages, where Masons lived and worked. Each lodge is headed by an officer called the Worshipful Master. Worshipful is a very old term meaning highly respected or honored. The term comes from the judicial system of England and does not carry any religious connotations. Master means leader or best qualified, as in concert master or master architect. Each officer of a lodge has a title that originated during the Middle Ages. These titles vary somewhat from state to state, but in general, the officers and their contemporary equivalents are these. The Worshipful Master is the president. The senior warden is the first vice president. The junior warden is the second vice president. The treasurer is the lodge's financial officer. The secretary is its recorder. The marshal would be called a master of ceremonies. The senior and junior deacons are messengers for the Worshipful Master and wardens. The two masters of ceremonies assist the marshal in the conduct of his duties. The tiler is a doorkeeper, and the chaplain is, of course, the chaplain. Until 1717, each lodge of Masons was autonomous. There was no overarching body that gave direction to the craft as a whole or settled disputes among individual lodges. Record-keeping was scattered, and individual lodges could have their archives wiped out by fire or other catastrophe. On June 24, 1717, 4 of the lodges operating in London, England, met to form the Grand Lodge of England. This meeting produced the first administrative or policy-making body in the history of Freemasonry, and records from that time forward are more complete. Masonic lodges still retain some independence in the matters of finances, activities, election of officers, fundraising projects, and the means by which men are allowed to join. But administratively speaking, each state or province has a Grand Lodge which coordinates activities, serves as a central source of record keeping, and performs other administrative and policy functions for the fraternity. There are 50 Grand Lodges in the United States, each of which has a Grand Master or state president. He has broad powers in overseeing the progress of the craft in his jurisdiction, and while there is no national spokesperson for the fraternity, within his own jurisdiction, he is the chief spokesman. No one knows with certainty how or when the Masonic fraternity was formed. A widely accepted theory among Masonic scholars is that it arose from the stonemasons' guilds during the Middle Ages. The language and symbols used in the fraternity's rituals come from this era. The oldest document that makes reference to Masons is the Regius poem, printed about 1390, which was a copy of an earlier work. Within 30 years of the founding of the first Grand Lodge, the fraternity had spread throughout Europe and the American colonies. Freemasonry became very popular in colonial America. George Washington was a Mason. Benjamin Franklin served as the head of the fraternity in Pennsylvania, as did Paul Revere and Joseph Warren in Massachusetts. Other well-known Masons involved with the founding of the United States included John Hancock, John Sullivan, the Marquis de Lafayette, Baron Frederick von Steuben, Nathaniel Greene, and John Paul Jones. Another Mason, Chief Justice John Marshall, shaped the U.S. Supreme Court into its present form. Over the centuries, Freemasonry has developed into a worldwide fraternity emphasizing personal study, self-improvement, and social betterment by individual involvement in the community and the encouragement of philanthropy. During the late 1700s, it was one of the organizations most responsible for spreading the ideals of the Enlightenment. These ideals promoted the dignity of man and the liberty of the individual, the right of all persons to worship as they chose, the formation of democratic governments, and the importance of public education. Masons supported the first public schools in both Europe and America. During the 1800s and early 1900s, Freemasonry grew dramatically. In fact, between 1896 and 1912, all 3 presidents of the U.S., William McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, and William Howard Taft, were Masons. At that time, there was no social safety net provided by the government, and the Masonic tradition of founding orphanages, homes for widows, and homes for the aged provided the only security many people knew. Today in North America, the Masonic fraternity continues this tradition by giving almost $2 million each day to causes that range from operating children's hospitals, providing treatment for childhood language and reading disorders, treating eye diseases, funding medical research, contributing to local community service, and providing care to Masons and their families at Masonic homes. The 4 million Masons worldwide continue to help men and women face the problems of the 21st century by building bridges of brotherhood and instilling in the hearts of men ideals for a better tomorrow. Freemasonry is not a religion, nor is it a substitute for religion. It requires of its members a belief in God as a part of the obligation of every responsible adult, but advocates no particular faith or practice. Masonic ceremonies include prayers, both traditional and extemporaneous, to reaffirm each individual's dependence on God and to urge them to seek divine guidance. Freemasonry is open to men of any faith, but religion and sectarian discussion are forbidden in lodge rooms. Masons meet in a spirit of toleration and brotherhood. Masons believe that there is one God and that many people employ many different ways to seek and to express what they know of God. Masons primarily use the term Grand Architect of the Universe and other non-sectarian titles to address the deity. In this way, persons of different faiths can join together in prayer, concentrating on God rather than the differences among themselves. Masonry believes in religious freedom and that the relationship between the individual and God is personal, private, and sacred. It strongly encourages each man to be active in his own church, synagogue, or house of worship. It expects each member to follow his own faith and to place his duty to God above all other duties. Freemasonry's moral teachings have been examined and found acceptable to all religions. This next point is important. Freemasonry lacks the basic elements of religion. It has no dogma or theology, no wish or means to enforce religious orthodoxy, and it offers no sacraments. Freemasonry does not claim to lead to salvation by works, by secret knowledge, or by any other means. The secrets of Freemasonry are concerned with modes of recognition, not with the means of salvation. An open volume of the sacred law, the rule and guide of life, is an essential part of every Masonic meeting. The volume of the sacred law in the Judeo-Christian tradition is the Bible. To Freemasons of other faiths, it is the book held holy by them, whether it be the Koran, the Torah, or some other work of holy writings. The obligations taken by Freemasons are sworn on the volume of the sacred law. These obligations are undertakings to follow the principles of Freemasonry and to keep confidential the means Freemasons use to recognize each other as such. Many outstanding religious leaders are and have been Masons, including the Reverend Norman Vincent Peale, bishops of the Methodist Church, Episcopal bishops and archbishops, presidents of the Southern Baptist Convention, rabbis, and leaders of all the world's great religions. Masons are members of numerous denominations representing many faiths, including many thousands of Roman Catholic Masons in the United States and around the world. Now that we have determined that Freemasonry is not and has never been a religion, let's address the issue of secrecy. Masonry is not a secret organization. It's an organization with secrets, and there's a difference. A secret organization's members, officers, place of meeting, and purpose are unknown to the public. Masonry is none of these. Freemasonry can't be called a secret society in the literal sense. A truly secret society forbids its members to disclose that they belong to the organization or that it even exists. Our members proudly wear rings, lapel pins, and other jewelry that mark them as members of the craft. Our meeting places are clearly marked and listed in your local phone book. You see the announcement of our newly installed officers in your hometown newspaper. There are signs at the city limits of most towns directing people to the nearest lodge, and the philanthropic purpose of Freemasonry is known to millions of its beneficiaries around the world. In addition, much of the Masonic ritual is in books called monitors that are widely available, even in public libraries. As to Masonic secrets, our business meetings are only open to members, and the process of joining a lodge is a private matter. The same could be said of annual meetings held by churches or other civic groups. New members of the Masonic fraternity are pledged not to discuss certain parts of the ceremonies associated with the organization with non-members, as there are certain handshakes and passwords, which are customs that have been incorporated into later fraternities, which are kept private. They are the means Masons have of recognizing one another, which is necessary in an organization which spans the entire world and which encompasses many languages. The tradition of using handshakes and passwords was very common in the Middle Ages, when the ability to identify oneself as belonging to a building or trade guild often made the difference in getting a job or in obtaining needed assistance for oneself and one's family. Today, Freemasons make the same pledge to every member that he will be offered assistance if he or his family ever requests it. In terms of what it does, what it teaches, who belongs, and where it meets, there are no secrets in Freemasonry. It is a private, fraternal association of men who contribute much toward the public good while enjoying the benefits of the brotherhood of a fraternity. Source material for today's program was provided by the Masonic Service Association.